Magnus here.
Transformers Animated was a show that came out in my quote-unquote youth, but I never got fully into it at the time because the movie had just come out, and at the time it was also my favorite story time for Bionicle, so Animated kind of got pushed to the side for me. However, I am slowly starting to back collect a lot of its toys now, and I have seen the whole show a few times over, so yay. Magnus here was one of the toys I wanted to get this whole time because A, he's a leader and I love leader class toys, and B, he just seemed like a lot of fun, and he is. Most of the fun I have with this toy though is its alt mode, because the bot mode definitely hasn't aged super well. Huge thanks to my buddy Nick for this guy, by the way. Thank you, Nick. So starting in Chunky Truck mode, that's what I'm calling it. I know there's a correct term. I don't care. It looks really well detailed for an animated toy. I love the rivety detail and all the painted lights all over this guy. The actual tooling is really nice and clean. It looks detailed, but not so detailed that it doesn't fit with animated. It's kind of hard to explain. It's not as detailed as a movie toy, but not as flat as like something that's trying to go animation accurate. It's got that little middle ground and it does it really well. I like that. It's also a friggin' brick. This thing you could legit build a house with. It's massive. He has 8 large wheels, so he rolls super well, and this is where the fun starts. It's a battering ram. You can literally just barrel it through huge things and maybe your whole house. I don't know. It just rolls really nicely. I'm not a huge fan of the sideways tail lights thing. I feel like they could have been done a little bit better, maybe an extra hinge just to have them straighten out. But the vehicle as a whole feels really well contained otherwise. These panels on the side on mine are really loose, but this was a used copy, so I'm not holding that against the figure. However, they do pop off a bit too easily for my liking, but they go back on pretty easily as well, so that's fine, I guess. The next super fun thing is all the stupid guns he has that just fold out from everywhere. There's 12 in total, and it seems a bit overkill, but at the same time, it's really cool. I love the way the hammer stores too. It's very nicely integrated in the alt mode, and this is one of the things I like about animated toy line. How well most of the weapons like store on most of the toys. There's some that, you know, look weird, but like, for example, here, Deluxe Cybertronian Optimus, his axe stores beautifully. I love the way Animated did weapon storage. He also does the old leader thing of shouting random noises at you. You press this secret red button on the side and it does this. I love the alt mode. It's really epic and definitely has a presence in any group shot I put it in, even with other leaders. Transformation is where my issues start with this dude, like my big issues. So the legs are pretty clever in how they convert, but the arms, those shoulder pads are super annoying, and there were some electronic defects in a lot of the toys back on release. According to the wiki, some of them would have buttons that wouldn't play the sound at all, that wouldn't play the full sound, or some that were way too sensitive, and my copy is the one that's a little too sensitive with the transformation noise in the shoulders. It just makes it all the friggin' time. Robot mode on looks is pretty damn good. The animation model looks very difficult to translate into toy form, but I think they did a pretty good job at the time, all things considered. And I do definitely love the way this thing looks. It's super cool and has a commanding presence. It's extremely chunky looking and it feels very good in hand. The plastic itself is also super robust and sturdy. I like having no concerns of this thing breaking. Like, I don't fear a lot of its parts because it just feels durable. A lot of the toys from back in that day felt really strong and super sturdy. All of those awesome vehicle mode details are still present here, along with some of this new, really cool torso design. I'm a huge fan of the winged logo, like the Autobot, the Elite Guard Autobot symbol, and the shaping of the torso looks like an overly buff wrestler, which is how I see animated Magnus, so I really like that. He can hold his hammer, and I really do wish the handle could extend. I feel like there's an upgrade kit out there, I think. I'm not 100% sure, because it was much larger in the show, and it looks really dinky in both his hands and Shockwave's hands, because yeah, Shockwave can wield the hammer, because he doesn't animated. Spoilers. I'm also not a huge fan of these shoulders. Well look, they rotate all the way back here due to the way it transforms, and it's not a very good look once you rotate them up. It reminds me of Combiner Wars Leader Megs in the way that you rotate the arms and the shoulders just look like they're much farther down on the torso. The arms in general are just very awkward because there's so many joints that don't know what to do. It's a bit of a drag on the whole experience for me. I find I don't mess with it as much as I would like to because of that. And then in the transformation, the shoulder pads are so stiff that it just makes it not a pleasant experience. Well, that and the arms are so clicky that it would annoy my entire family if I were to move him around so much, so I don't mess with him that much. He also stands weird. So the animation model has his legs positioned this way. So the toy can kind of do that, but like the torso and the hips, if you stand him up straight, he's always looking up slightly, but if you correct him to look forward, he ends up just looking down. There's no middle ground in the ratchets, and that's a little annoying to me. It's so odd. Like if I support him, he looks straight on in the first configuration, but if I let go, he leans back a bit because the ratchets just aren't strong enough. If they had more clicks in them and there was a click in the middle there, that would have been a little bit easier and a little bit more manageable, like when you're trying to get him to stand. But as it is, always looking up is a little annoying to me. It's just, it's so slight, but it bothers me. Now, being a leader, he does have lights and sounds, and he says all these things.
Don't be a hero, Optimus. It's not in your programming. We must return the old spark to Cybertron. Ultra Magnus here.
I love how he just puts Optimus down, and that's one of the friggin' gimmicks that makes me laugh. He's just like, ha, Optimus, shut up. It's really funny, I love it. I also love the head gimmick. When activating the feature, animated leaders had their mouths move when they talk, like they'd open and close, and that's kind of normal for animated toys, but Magnus's eyebrows also move to change his expression when he speaks. That is a massive attention to detail. I did not expect it, and I'm super happy they did that. They didn't have to, and they did. It's just something so small, yet so good. Like, it's a really awesome attention to detail. It's neat. I love it. I'm really appreciative that he can actually move his eyebrows when he speaks. That's awesome. He can also do the headmaster thing, but A, I don't have a headmaster, and B, this is all that's left of my leader bulkhead. But he is in permanent Pooth mode from now on, and that's how he's displayed on my shelf, because I got this for $5 at a Value Village. Articulation is a bit of a mess. So the head rotates, but don't go a full 360 because the wiring in it, you might, don't do that. The arms have so many joints, especially in the shoulders, that it's a bit of a pain to pose. Like I said earlier, also the gimmick likes to activate every now and again, the transformation sound. The lower arms are pretty okay though, and he does have opening fingers, so I like that. I think the bottom, like the lower arms actually look really sick. The legs are also a bit clunky because the lower legs is all just one solid piece. It can be a bit of a pain trying to get him to stand at all in most poses, which is a real shame because the hammer just invites you to want to pose him, but you kind of can't. I mean, you can, but just not as much as one would want. In the end, it's still a cool toy. The thing is super fun to mess with, but there are still a lot of issues that I find that keep me from messing with this guy, and it's all just because of how old he is and how dated a lot of the engineering and articulation feels on this guy. It's very clunky, and that's a bit of a detriment to the toy as a whole, but it's still kind of fun. Nostalgically, it's really, really cool, but looking at this toy today, like I said, it's starting to show its age. Now, if you can find one of these for like 40 bucks, then I'd definitely say get it used, that is. I mean, if you find it sealed for 40 bucks, definitely jump on it. I wouldn't say no to that. It's still a sick leader class toy, and I'm very happy to own it. I do wish he got a Voyager, though, in the animated toy line, because I feel like a lot of the clickiness and the gimmicks are a big drawback to this toy if you want one to pose. If you want one just to stand there and on a shelf and look intimidating, this does that no problem. If you want a big toy just to play with, if you're like a kid or an adult who's very fidgety like me, then this works too. But if you want something to just pose, I think a Voyager would have suited him a lot better. But that's my look at Leader Class Ultra Magnus. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.